But it falls within the language, doesn't it?
What kind of evidence do you typically present in these January 6th cases to prove the corruptly element?
So the January 6 prosecutions require us to show first that the defendants had knowledge that Congress was meeting in the joint session on that day. We have to show that the defendants specifically intended to disrupt the joint proceeding. And then with respect to using unlawful means with consciousness of wrongdoing, we have focused on things like the defendants' threats of violence, willingness to use violence here. We allege that petitioner assaulted a police officer. We have focused on things like preparation for violence, bringing tactical gear or paramilitary equipment to the Capitol. And I want to emphasize, Justice Kagan, that this is a stringent mens rea requirement that has very much constrained the U.S. Attorney's Office. We've charged over 1,350 defendants with crimes committed on January 6th, but we've only had the evidence of intent to bring charges against 350 for a 1512
So how do you
violation.
make that decision? How do you decide which defendants get charged under this statute as opposed to not?
The dividing line has hinged usually on the evidence we have of intent. So we're looking for clear evidence that the defendant knew about the proceedings that were happening in the joint session in Congress that day, clear knowledge of the official proceeding. We've looked for evidence that the defendant specifically intended to prevent Congress from certifying the vote, and so used his actions to obstruct that proceeding. And then also, as I'd mentioned, the knowledge of wrongfulness or unlawful conduct can come about with respect to particular preparations that the defendants have made. And, you know, there are a number of cases where even though we thought we had the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt, there have been acquittals because there was, testimony that was credited that the defendant thought the proceedings were over and wasn't intending to obstruct. Or one person thought and said he thought that law enforcement was waving him into the building. So even in situations where we think we have amassed the evidence, we still haven't always been able to sustain these convictions, and it's because of the stringent mens rea.